I regularly come across what I can only describe as the irresponsibility of the mental health industry. I came across somebody a couple of years ago who in the space of 5 minutes had been diagnosed with depression. Over the course of a couple of hours conversation with him, it emerged that he was simply the kind of individual that he was, and he was simply the kind of individual who didn't really care that much to interact with other people in the here and now, as a result of the way in which he had been deprived of the ability or the opportunity to interact with people when he was young and impressionable. I came across somebody else a couple of days ago who had been diagnosed in the space of 5 minutes as having a personality disorder. Even though in the course of just a couple of emails from this person it emerged that he had been separated from his parents in a traumatic fashion as a result of scarlet fever when he was 2.5 years old, and effectively what he has been suffering from ever since is what might be called long PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder. I came across a couple of years ago a crusading psychiatrist from the American Psychiatric Association who was crusading throughout Europe with government health departments to stop the psychiatric and psychological industries, and I'll actually call them that, from pouring medicine into people who didn't need medicine. The point he was making was that, first of all, the average length of a diagnosis by a mental health professional is 6 to 7 minutes. Now that was a United States metric. I'm not 100% sure what it's like in this part of the world, but I don't know how you could diagnose somebody in that short amount of time. The average consultation was 12 minutes, so half of it was taken up with the diagnosis and half of it was taken up with the prescription of medicines. Mad stuff. I've come across somebody else recently who was diagnosed as being on the autism spectrum. It would never have occurred to the mental health professional involved to try and figure out the impact of a really traumatic experience that had befallen the family when this individual was only 3 years old. I could go on and on and on, but there's really only a single point I want to make in relation to this video, and that is that if you have ever considered yourself to be anything, in other words, depressed, stressed, whatever, all the way down to some of the stuff I've just mentioned, they're only labels, and they're only labels smacked on people for convenience, and they are labels that you should not own. Because even if you did have a traumatic experience when you were 2 or 3 years old, even if up to now you have been suffering from what I described a moment ago as long PTSD, you don't need to go back and undo what was done. If you're suffering from personality disorder now as a result of something that happened to you when you were learning theory of mind in the 3rd year of your life, you don't need to go back and try and figure out what it was. Everything that happened in the past is in the past. And the past is a foreign country. We've only one thing to do as human beings to enable us live our life to the full, and I mean to the full, in the here and now, and that is turn up to the here and now. We've only one way, surefire way of doing that, and that is meditation. And if I'm boring you talking about meditation week in and week out, that's your problem, it's not mine. And it really is a problem if you're bored by it, because it is the only, as I said, surefire, scientifically validated way that you can come to your senses, enter the flow of the here and now, synchronize yourself with the universe, and get on with the business of living your life to the full now. It's the only time and place you can.